The lights came on slowly, one by one, like stars waking up after a long night. Deep inside the ship called Horizon's End, the pods began to open with a soft hiss. Cold air escaped into the dark hallways. After 600 years of silence, the ship was coming back to life. Captain opened her eyes. For a moment she did not know where she was. Her body felt heavy and strange. Ice crystals covered her skin and her lungs burned as she took her first real breath in centuries. She remembered going to sleep. She remembered the mission. They were supposed to reach a new world and build a colony for humanity, but something had gone wrong. She pushed herself out of the pod and fell to her knees on the cold metal floor. Warning lights flashed red all around her. Alarms screamed through the ship. She could hear other pods opening nearby, other crew members waking up with the same confusion she felt. "Captain," a voice called out. Looked up and saw Lieutenant Park Sung running toward her. He was a tall man with a calm face, but right now his eyes showed fear. He helped her stand up and held her steady until she found her balance. "What happened?" asked. Her voice was rough from not speaking for so long. "I don't know yet," Sung said. "The ship woke us up automatically. Something is very wrong." They made their way to the bridge, walking through dark hallways filled with floating dust. Some sections of the ship had no power at all. Other sections showed signs of damage that could not explain. Wires hung from the ceiling. Panels had been torn from the walls. It looked like the ship had been through a terrible storm. When they reached the bridge, they found Engineer Bora already at work. She was a woman in her 40s with gray in her hair and oil stains on her hands. She had been awake for only a few minutes, but she was already trying to fix the main computer. Bora said, "Report." Bora turned to look at her captain. Her face was pale. "Captain, I don't know how to tell you this. According to the ship's clock, we have been asleep for 612 years. Felt her heart stop. "That's impossible. The journey was only supposed to take 50 years. "I know," Bora said, "but the ship got caught in something. A fold in space. A trap of some kind. We were stuck there, frozen in time, while the rest of the universe moved on without us." Sung walked to the main window and looked outside. What he saw made his blood run cold. "Captain," he said quietly, "you need to see this." Walked to the window and looked out into space. At first she could not understand what she was seeing. There were ships out there. Hundreds of ships. They were huge and dark, shaped like blades with lights that glowed an angry red. They surrounded the horizon's end from every direction. "Those are not human ships," said. "No," Sung agreed, "they are not." The main screen on the bridge flickered to life. A face appeared on it. The face was not human. It had gray skin, 4 eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It wore armor that looked like it was made from bone. When it spoke, its voice was deep and full of hate. "Human vessel," the alien said. "You have entered the territory of the Dominion. You will surrender immediately or you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide." The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one on the bridge spoke. They were 300 people on an old ship with no weapons and no shields, facing an army of over 200 alien warships. There was no way they could win. There was no way they could escape. Bora broke the silence. "Captain, I managed to access some data from the emergency beacon network. It took me a while to understand it, but—" She stopped. Her hands were shaking. "Tell me," said. "In the 600 years we were gone, humanity grew. We built colonies on hundreds of worlds. We became a great civilization." Bora's voice broke. "And then the Dominion came. They attacked without warning. They destroyed planet after planet. They killed billions of people. The war lasted only 20 years. Humanity lost." Closed her eyes. She thought of Earth. She thought of the people who had sent them on this mission, full of hope for the future. All of them were dead now. Everything they had built was gone. "Are there any survivors?" she asked. "Some," Bora said. "Small colonies hiding in the far corners of the galaxy. But they have no power, no ships, no way to fight back. The Dominion controls everything now. They hunt the remaining humans for sport. Sung slammed his fist against the wall. So we wake up after 600 years just to die, just to be destroyed by these monsters. Did not answer. She was looking at the ship's main computer, reading the data that scrolled across the screen. Something had caught her attention, something that the Dominion did not know. The Horizon's End was not just a colony ship. When Earth built it, they had given it something special, something powerful, something that had been lost to history because the ship had disappeared before anyone could record what it carried. Bora said slowly, "Is the Cascade engine still functional?" Bora looked at her with wide eyes. The Cascade engine. Captain, that thing was never even tested. The scientists who built it said it was too dangerous to use. It could power a sun or destroy a planet. No one knows what it really does. I know, said, but right now it's the only thing we have. The main screen came to life again. The alien commander appeared, his 4 eyes glowing with anger. Your hour is almost over, humans. What is your answer? Will you surrender and serve the Dominion as slaves? Or will you die with your worthless ship? Captain stood straight. She looked at the alien commander without fear. She thought of the billions of humans who had died. She thought of the survivors hiding in the darkness, waiting for help that would never come. She thought of her crew, 300 souls who trusted her to lead them. My answer, she said, is no. We will not surrender, we will not become slaves. We are humans from Earth and we do not give up. The alien commander laughed. It was a terrible sound. Then you will die, all of you, and no one will remember you ever existed. The screen went dark again. Sung looked at his captain. What do we do now? Turned to her crew. They were scared. They were confused, but in their eyes she also saw something else. She saw determination. She saw the fire that had made humanity great. Now, she said, we show them why they should have been afraid of us. Outside the ship, the fleet began to move. 200 warships aimed their weapons at the ancient human vessel. They expected an easy kill. They expected the humans to die quickly and quietly like all the others. They were wrong. Deep inside the Horizon's End, in a room that had been sealed for 600 years, a machine began to wake up. Lights flickered. Energy started to flow. The Cascade engine hummed with power that had not been felt since the golden age of Earth. The battle was about to begin. The fleet moved like a pack of wolves circling wounded prey. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tiny human ship on his. He had fought many battles in his long life. He had destroyed countless enemies of the Dominion. But this was the first time he had seen a ship from old Earth. Scan the vessel, he ordered. His officers obeyed. After a moment they reported their findings. The human ship was 600 years old. It had no shields. Its weapons were ancient and weak. Its hull was damaged in several places. 300 life signs were detected inside. Smiled, showing all his sharp teeth. Pathetic. This is what humans call a starship. My personal shuttle has more power. His sub-commander stood nearby. She was younger than and had not fought in the Great War against humanity. High Commander, she said carefully, perhaps we should study this vessel before destroying it. Ships from old Earth are extremely rare. There may be valuable technology on board. There is nothing valuable about humans, snapped. They are pests, vermin. The galaxy is better without them. We will destroy this ship and then continue hunting the survivors. On the Horizon's End, Captain called her senior officers to the briefing room. They gathered around a table that flickered with old holographic displays. Besides Lieutenant Park Sung and Engineer Bora, 2 more officers had joined them. Navigator Bai was the youngest person in the room. She was only 25 years old, though she had been born over 600 years ago. She had spent the morning studying the ship's ancient computer systems, trying to understand what had happened while they slept. Dr. Shin 1 was the oldest. He was the ship's doctor and historian, a quiet man who had spent his life studying the golden age of Earth. He knew more about their ship than anyone else alive. "We have less than 30 minutes before they attack," said. "I need options." Sung shook his head. "Our weapons cannot hurt them. Their shields are too strong. Even if we fired everything we have, we would barely scratch their paint." "We cannot run either," Bora added. "The engines are damaged. The best speed we can manage is 1/10 of what we need to escape." Bai raised her hand. "Captain, I found something strange in the ship's database. There are files here that were sealed before we left Earth. Very high security. I've never seen anything like it." "Can you open them?" asked. "I'm trying, but it will take time." Dr. Shin cleared his throat. Everyone turned to look at him. He was holding an old data pad, the kind that had not been made in centuries. His face was serious. "Captain," he said slowly, "there is something you all need to know about this ship. Something that was kept secret from most of the crew." He pressed a button on the data pad. A hologram appeared above the table. It showed the horizon's end, but with detailed blueprints that revealed hidden sections of the ship. "The horizon's end was not just a colony ship," Dr. Shin explained. "When Earth built it, they were afraid. They knew that humanity might face dangers in the stars, so they gave this ship a secret weapon." He pointed to the deepest part of the ship, far below the crew quarters. "This is the Cascade engine. It was the greatest achievement of human science. It can generate more power than a star. It can bend space and time, and it can be used as a weapon that no enemy could survive." Sung stared at the hologram. "Why wasn't this ever used?" "Because peace came before war," Dr. Shin said. "The Cascade engine was finished just as humanity entered a golden age of exploration and cooperation. There was no need for weapons. The engine was installed in the horizon's end as a safety measure, but it was never activated. And then we disappeared into that time fold, taking the only Cascade engine with us." Bora was already on her feet. "I need to see this engine. If I can get it working, maybe we have a chance." "There's more," Dr. Shin said. He looked at Bai. "Those sealed files you found, I believe they contain tactical programs, battle strategies designed by Earth's greatest military minds. They were meant to be used with the Cascade engine if humanity ever faced extinction." Felt something warm growing in her chest. It was hope. Dangerous hope, the kind that could break your heart if it turned out to be false. But right now, it was all they had. "Get that engine working," she ordered Bora. "Bai, open those files. We have 30 minutes to learn 600 years of lost technology." The crew scattered to their tasks. Bora ran to the deep levels of the ship with a team of engineers. Bai worked frantically at her computer station, trying to break the ancient security codes. Dr. Shin assisted her, using his knowledge of old Earth systems. On the flagship, High Commander was growing impatient. "Their time is almost up. Prepare the fleet to fire on my command." Sub-Commander watched the human ship on her screen. Something was bothering her. The ship had been dead in space for hours, but now she could see small flashes of light inside. Power was flowing through it. The humans were doing something. "High Commander," she said, "there is unusual activity on the human vessel. Their power output is increasing." Dismissed her concern with a wave of his claw. "It doesn't matter. They could have 10 times their current power, and it would still mean nothing against our fleet." Inside the horizon's end, Bora reached the Cascade engine chamber. It was a massive room filled with equipment she barely understood. In the center stood the engine itself. It looked like a giant crystal, dark and cold. It had not been activated in over 600 years. "Everyone stand back," Bora said to her team. "I'm going to try to wake it up." She connected her portable computer to the engine's control panel. The ancient systems were different from anything she had worked with before, but the basic principles were the same. Power was power. Energy was energy, and right now she needed a lot of both. She entered the activation sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal began to glow, softly at first like a candle in the darkness, then brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at. The whole room began to shake. Bora could feel the power flowing through the ship, more power than she had ever imagined possible. "It's working," she shouted into her communicator. "Captain, the Cascade engine is online." On the bridge, received the message just as Bai broke through the last security lock. "I've got the tactical files," Bai announced. "Captain, there are hundreds of battle strategies here. They were designed to fight enemies we've never even heard of, and they're all compatible with the Cascade engine." The main screen flickered. The commander appeared again. His 4 eyes burned with anger. "Your time is up, humans. You have refused our generous offer of slavery. Now you will die. Any last words?" Stood before the screen. She could feel the power of the Cascade engine flowing through the ship, making the floor vibrate under her feet. For the first time since she woke up, she smiled. "Yes," she said, "I have last words. We are humans from Earth. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They crossed oceans in wooden boats and walked on the surface of the moon. They built wonders that lasted thousands of years and dreamed of reaching the stars. You think you defeated us. You think we are finished. You have no idea what we are capable of." Laughed, words, empty words, fire. 200 warships opened fire at once. Beams of red energy shot toward the horizon's end, enough power to destroy a small planet. The humans had no shields. They had no defense. It should have been over in an instant. But on the bridge of the ancient ship, Bai activated the first tactical program. The Cascade engine roared to life, and the horizon's end began to move in ways that no ship had moved in 600 years. The weapons hit empty space. The human ship was simply not there anymore. It had moved faster than their sensors could track, sliding through the gaps between their attack beams like water through fingers. High Commander stared at his in confusion. This was impossible. The human ship had no engines capable of such speed. It had no power source that could allow such movements. "Where are they?" he demanded. "Find them." His officers scrambled to obey. They scanned the area around the fleet, trying to locate the ancient vessel. For several long seconds, they found nothing. Then one of them pointed at the screen with a trembling claw. "There, High Commander, behind the 7th Squadron." Looked, the human ship had appeared behind his own forces, positioning itself where his warships could not fire without hitting each other. It was a clever move, the kind of tactic that required perfect timing and incredible skill. But how had they done it? On the horizon's end, Captain gripped her chair as the ship completed its first combat jump. The Cascade engine had bent space itself, moving them from one point to another in the blink of an eye. She felt dizzy, but she pushed the feeling aside. There was no time for weakness. "Bai, what's next?" she called out. Navigator Bai was reading the tactical programs as fast as she could. Her eyes moved across the screen, absorbing battle strategies that were older than the Dominion itself. The program recommends targeting their formation points, the places where their ships are closest together. One shot there will cause chain reactions. Lieutenant Park Sung was at the weapons console. "Captain, our weapons are charging. The Cascade engine is giving us power I've never seen before, but I don't know if we can actually hurt them." "We won't know until we try," said Fire. The horizon's end opened fire. But these were not the weak weapons they had expected. The Cascade engine had transformed the ship's old guns into something terrible. Beams of golden light shot out from the ancient vessel, carrying the compressed energy of a star. They moved so fast that the sensors could not track them. The first beam hit a cluster of 3 warships. The explosion was massive. The ships did not just break apart, they turned into dust and fire that spread to the vessels nearby. In a single shot, 12 warships were destroyed. On his flagship, watched in horror as part of his fleet disappeared. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." Sub-Commander A was running calculations on her console. Her hands were shaking. "High Commander, their weapons are using technology we've never seen. Our shields have no defense against it. It's too old. Our systems don't even recognize it as a threat." "Then we will overwhelm them with numbers," roared. "All ships attack Pattern Dominion. Surround them. Give them nowhere to run." The fleet began to reorganize. They spread out in a massive sphere around the area where the human ship had last been seen. 200 ships moved as one, their weapons ready to fire in every direction. No matter where the humans went, they would be caught. But the Horizon's End did not try to run. Chief Medic Jin was in the medical bay, treating crew members who had been injured during the combat jumps. The ship was old, and the sudden movements had caused damage to some of the internal structures. Bulkheads had cracked, pipes had burst, people had been thrown against walls. "Hold still," she told a young officer with a broken arm. "This will only take a moment." She had just finished setting the bone when the ship shook again. Another jump, another attack. She held onto the operating table to keep from falling. In the engine room, Bora was working miracles. The Cascade engine was running at levels it had never been designed to reach. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed for her attention, but she ignored them all, focusing only on keeping the power flowing. "Come on," she muttered to the machine. "Just a little more, you can do this." The crystal at the center of the engine glowed brighter and brighter. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Bora could feel the heat from it on her face, even through her protective suit. This was the power that Earth had created in its final golden age. This was the fire that had been lost when the Horizon's End disappeared. On the bridge, watched the fleet close in around them. 50 ships, then 100, then more than she could count. They were everywhere, blocking every path of escape. "They're trying to trap us," Sung said. "Let them try," replied. "Bai next tactical program." Bai activated the program. On her screen, she could see the pattern of battle that had been designed centuries ago by minds she would never meet. It was elegant and brutal at the same time. It showed her exactly where to strike to cause the most damage. "Lieutenant Park, target these coordinates," she said, sending the data to his console. Sung looked at the targets. They were the command ships in the formation, the leaders, the ones giving orders to the rest of the fleet. "I see it," he said, "firing now." The Horizon's End released another barrage of golden fire. This time, the beams split into dozens of smaller shots, each one aimed at a different target. The commanders never saw it coming. Their shields failed instantly. Their ships exploded before they could even scream. 30 ships fell, then 50. Then the count became hard to follow. The fleet was in chaos. Ships were firing wildly, hitting empty space or sometimes hitting each other. Their formation had collapsed. Their commanders were dead or dying. They had never faced an enemy like this before. On a distant asteroid, hidden from the Dominion's sensors, a small group of humans watched the battle on a stolen. They were survivors, refugees who had been hiding for years, waiting for a death that they knew would eventually come. One of them, an old woman with scars on her face, stood up suddenly. "That ship," she said, pointing at the screen. "That's an Earth ship, an old one from before the war." The others gathered around her. They watched as the ancient vessel danced through the fleet, destroying enemies with every shot. It was impossible. It was beautiful. It was hope. "Someone needs to know about this," the old woman said. "Someone needs to tell the other colonies." On the flagship, High Commander was losing control. Half his fleet was gone. The human ship seemed to be everywhere at once, striking and disappearing before his forces could respond. His tactical officers were dead. His sub-commanders were panicking. Only A remained calm. She watched the battle with calculating eyes, trying to understand what was happening. The human ship was using tactics that made no sense to military thinking. It was unpredictable, random, chaotic, and somehow it was winning. She made a decision. Moving quietly to a private console, she opened a hidden communication channel. She had heard rumors about human survivors hiding in the outer reaches of space. She had never told anyone. Now she was glad she had kept the secret. "Attention, any human vessels receiving this message," she said softly. "This is Subcommander of the Dominion. I am transmitting the coordinates of a battle in progress. A human ship from old Earth is fighting our fleet, and it is winning. If you want to see hope, look here. Look now." She ended the transmission just as voice echoed across the bridge. "Prepare the Annihilator cannon," he ordered. His voice was shaking with rage. "I will destroy that ship myself. I will burn it to atoms. Nothing will survive." On the flagship's underside, a massive weapon began to charge. It was the Dominion's ultimate weapon, a cannon designed to destroy entire planets. It had never been used against a single ship before, but was beyond reason now. On the horizon's end, Dr. Shin-Won looked up from his console with wide eyes. "Captain," he said urgently, "they're charging something massive, a weapon I've never seen before if it hits us." Understood. They had won every battle so far. They had destroyed over 100 enemy ships. But now, facing a weapon designed to kill worlds, their luck was running out. "How long until it fires?" she asked. 90 seconds, Dr. Shin replied. Turned to her crew. They were tired, they were scared, but they were still fighting, still refusing to give up. "Bora," she said into the communicator, "I need everything the Cascade engine can give me. Everything." In the engine room, Bora looked at the crystal that was already glowing like a captive sun. She had been holding back, afraid to push it too far, but now there was no choice. "Understood, Captain," she said. "Hold on tight, this is going to be rough." She removed the safety limits. The Cascade engine screamed. The Annihilator cannon glowed with terrible red light. It was a weapon that had ended civilizations. It had burned planets down to bare rock, and now it was pointed at a single human ship, ready to erase it from existence. 60 seconds to firing, an officer announced. High Commander stood at the center of his bridge, watching the ancient human vessel on his. Despite everything that had happened, despite the destruction of over 100 of his ships, he was smiling. This was the end. The humans had fought well, better than any enemy he had ever faced, but they could not survive what was coming. "You should have surrendered," he said quietly to the image of the horizon's end. "Now you will burn like all the others." On the horizon's end, Captain could feel the ship vibrating around her. The Cascade engine was running at maximum power now, flooding every system with more energy than they were designed to handle. Lights flickered. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits. The whole vessel groaned like a living thing in pain. "Captain," Bora's voice came through the communicator, strained and exhausted. "The engine can do one more trick. Something I found in the old files. It can fold space. Not just move us fast, but actually fold space around us and put us somewhere else." Mind raced. "Where?" "Anywhere we want, but there's a problem. The fold is imprecise. We could end up inside a planet, or inside a star, or inside an enemy ship." Finished. Silence on the bridge. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. It was insane. It was suicide, and it might be their only chance. 30 seconds to firing, Dr. Shin announced, reading the data from his console. Made her decision. "Bora, target the flagship. Put us directly inside their hangar bay." "Captain, that's—" "I know what it is. Do it." Lieutenant Park Sung stood up from his console. "Captain, if we appear inside their ship, we can take the fight directly to them. I'll lead a strike team. We'll hit their bridge and end this." Looked at her tactical officer. He was calm, ready, unafraid. This was why she had chosen him for this mission all those years ago. Take whoever volunteers. Arm yourselves with whatever we have." 15 seconds, Dr. Shin said. The Annihilator cannon was fully charged now. Its red glow filled the eye of an angry god. In moments, it would fire. In moments, the horizon's end would cease to exist. Bora said now. The Cascade engine roared louder than it had ever roared before. The crystal at its heart blazed with light so bright that Bora had to close her eyes. She could feel space bending around the ship, folding like paper, creating a tunnel through reality itself. And then the horizon's end was gone. The Annihilator cannon fired at empty space. Its beam of destruction hit nothing but stars and darkness. Where the human ship had been, there was only silence. On the flagship screamed in frustration, "Where are they? Find them." Before anyone could answer, the ship shook violently. Alarms started screaming. Damage reports flooded every console. Something was very wrong. "High Commander," an officer shouted. "There's a ship in our hangar bay, the human ship. They're inside us." His eyes went wide. Impossible. But it was not impossible. The horizon's end had materialized directly inside the flagship's main hangar, tearing through walls and equipment as it arrived. The ancient vessel was damaged, its hull cracked and smoking, but it was intact, and its crew was already pouring out through the emergency hatches. Lieutenant Park Sung led the strike team. There were 50 of them, volunteers who had chosen to fight instead of hide. They carried weapons that were 600 years old, guns and knives from an age that the galaxy had forgotten. They should have been useless against armor. But the armor had been designed to stop modern weapons. It had no defense against ancient bullets and blades made from metals that were no longer manufactured. The first guard went down with a bullet through his skull. The second died with a knife in his throat. The humans moved through the hallways of the flagship like ghosts, striking from shadows, disappearing before the enemy could respond. On the bridge of the horizon's end, coordinated the attack through her communicator. The ship was badly damaged, unable to move or fire, but its sensors still worked. She could see where the enemy was. She could guide her people through the alien vessel. "Sung, there's a group of guards ahead. Take the left corridor and you'll come up behind them." "Understood, Captain." In the medical bay, Chief Medic Oh-Jin was preparing for wounded. She knew they would come. They always did. But she also knew that this battle was different. This was not just about survival anymore. This was about showing the galaxy that humanity was not finished. "Get ready," she told her team. "We're going to have a lot of work soon." High Commander realized what the humans were doing. They were coming for the bridge. They were coming for him. He gathered his personal guards around him and prepared to fight. He had never faced a human in personal combat before. He had always thought them weak and soft. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Sung's team reached the bridge in less than 10 minutes. They had cut through every defense, left a trail of dead behind them. Now they stood outside the reinforced doors that protected the command center. "Blow it open," Sung ordered. One of his team members placed explosives on the door. Ancient explosives, made from chemicals that they did not recognize. The blast tore the doors apart and sent pieces of metal flying into the bridge. The humans charged through the smoke. What followed was brutal and short. Guards fought well, but they had never faced enemies like this. The humans were faster than they expected, stronger than they believed possible, and they fought with a fury that came from 600 years of lost time and billions of dead brothers and sisters. One by one, the guards fell. Soon only was left, standing in the center of his ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his soldiers. Sung stepped forward, but a voice stopped him. "Let me." Captain had left the horizon's end. She had walked through the flagship's corridors alone, following the path her crew had cleared. Now she stood before the High Commander of the Dominion, a woman in her 50s with gray in her hair and fire in her eyes. You killed billions of my people, she said. You hunted the survivors like animals. You thought humanity was finished. Laughed, it was a bitter sound. You have won nothing, human. Even if you kill me, the Dominion will send more ships. 1,000 more, 1,000,000, you cannot defeat us all. Drew her knife. It was old, simple, made from steel that had been forged on Earth before her grandparents were born. Maybe not, she said, but we can try. Attacked first. He was fast and strong, his claws sharp enough to cut through metal, but had something he did not understand. She had human determination, human stubbornness, the refusal to give up even when victory seemed impossible. They fought across the ruined bridge, landed several hits, his claws tearing through his uniform and drawing blood, but she kept coming. Every time he knocked her down, she got back up. Every time he thought he had won, she found the strength to fight again. Finally, when he raised his claw for what he thought would be the killing blow, she moved under his guard and drove her knife into his throat. Fell, his 4 eyes looked up at the human who had killed him, filled with confusion and something that might have been respect. "How," he whispered, "how are you so strong?" Knelt beside him, her knife still in her hand. She was bleeding from a dozen wounds. Her body screamed with pain, but her voice was steady. "Because we're human," she said, "and we never give up." The High Commander died with those words in his ears. Outside the flagship, the remaining ships watched in horror as explosions began to tear through their command vessel. They did not know what was happening inside. They did not know that their High Commander was dead. All they knew was that the impossible had happened. The humans had won. But on the flagship's bridge, Sung looked at his captain with worried eyes. "The ship is exploding. We need to get out of here." Nodded, "Everyone back to the horizon's end. Move." They ran through smoke and fire, carrying their wounded, leaving their dead behind. The flagship was dying around them, its systems failing one by one. They had minutes at most before it exploded completely. And the horizon's end was trapped inside. Fire was everywhere. The flagship was tearing itself apart, explosions rippling through its massive structure like waves on a dying sea. Smoke filled the corridors. The walls groaned and cracked. Somewhere in the distance, something huge collapsed with a sound like thunder. Captain ran through the chaos with her crew, her lungs burning from the smoke, her wounds bleeding through her torn uniform. Behind her, Lieutenant Park Sung carried a wounded soldier over his shoulder. Around them, the other survivors of the strike team moved as fast as they could, helping each other, refusing to leave anyone behind. They reached the hangar bay where the horizon's end waited. The ancient ship was battered and broken, its hull cracked in a dozen places, smoke rising from its damaged systems. But it was still there, still waiting for them. "Everyone aboard," shouted, "move." They climbed through the emergency hatches, pouring into the ship like water into a bottle. Chief Medic Oh-jin met them inside, directing the wounded to her medical bay, counting heads to make sure everyone was accounted for. On the bridge, found Navigator Bai still at her console, her young face pale with exhaustion. "Captain, the flagship is going to explode in less than 2 minutes. We don't have time to get clear." "Where's Bo-ra?" "Still in the engine room. She's trying to get us one more jump." Activated her communicator. "Bo-ra, talk to me." Engineer Bo-ra's voice came through, strained and tired. "Captain, the Cascade engine is dying. I've pushed it too hard. The crystal is cracking. I might be able to get one more fold, but I can't promise where we'll end up. Can you get us out of this ship?" A pause, then, "I can try." Closed her eyes for a moment. She thought of her crew, 300 souls who had trusted her to lead them through the impossible. They had awakened from 6 centuries of sleep to find their world destroyed. They had faced an armada that should have killed them instantly. They had fought and bled and won. They deserved to survive. "Do it," she said. "Get us out of here." In the engine room, Bora looked at the Cascade engine. The crystal was no longer glowing with the steady light of power. Now it flickered and sparked, lines of damage spreading across its surface like cracks in ice. It was dying, just like she had said. But it had one more gift to give. "Come on," she whispered, placing her hands on the control panel. "One more time, just one more." She activated the fold sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. The crystal flickered. The engines groaned. And then, with a sound that seemed to come from the soul of the ship itself, space folded around the horizon's end. The ship disappeared from the flagship's hangar bay. 3 seconds later, the flagship exploded. The blast was enormous, a wave of fire and force that consumed everything nearby. 20 more ships were caught in the explosion, too close to escape. They died without knowing what had happened. When the fire cleared, the fleet was broken. More than 150 ships had been destroyed. The survivors were scattered, disorganized, their commanders dead or missing. They had come to kill a single ancient vessel, and instead they had been slaughtered. The horizon's end appeared 1,000 kilometers away from the wreckage. It drifted slowly, its engines silent, its hull torn and scorched. From the outside it looked dead, but inside life still remained. Captain opened her eyes. She was lying on the floor of the bridge, thrown there by the force of the fold. Around her, the rest of the bridge crew was slowly getting up, checking themselves for injuries, looking around in confusion. "Did we make it?" Sung asked. Bai checked her console. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "We're clear. The flagship is destroyed. The fleet is retreating. We did it." Slowly got to her feet. Every part of her body hurt. She was covered in blood, most of it her own. She was exhausted beyond anything she had ever felt before. But when she looked at thee and saw the fleeing ships, she smiled. "Get me a channel to anyone who can hear us," she said. "I want to send a message." Dr. Shin Won worked at his console, bypassing damaged systems, rerouting power to the communications array. After a few moments, he nodded. "You're on, Captain, broadcasting on all frequencies." Face the camera. She did not know who would hear her words. She did not know if anyone was listening, but she spoke anyway because someone had to. "This is Captain of the human vessel Horizon's End. 600 years ago, we left Earth to build a new home for humanity. We were caught in a fold in space and lost to time. Today, we woke up to find our people scattered and hunted. We found an enemy who believed humanity was finished. We found a galaxy that had forgotten what we are." She paused, looking at her crew. They were watching her with eyes full of hope, injured, exhausted, but unbroken. "The Dominion sent 200 warships to destroy us. Over 150 of those ships are gone now. The rest are running. We are one ancient vessel with 300 crew members, and we made the most powerful fleet in the galaxy run away." Across space, the message spread. On hidden asteroids and forgotten moons, human survivors heard it. They gathered around old communication devices, listening to a voice they had never expected to hear. The voice of hope. "I don't know how many of you are out there. I don't know where you are or what you've suffered, but I want you to know this: we are still here. Humanity is still here. We came from a small blue planet and we dreamed of reaching the stars. We built ships that sailed across the galaxy. We created wonders that lasted for ages, and when our enemies thought they had destroyed us, we proved them wrong." On the asteroid where Sub-Commander A's message had been received, the old woman with scars on her face was crying. Others around her were crying too. They had lived in darkness for so long, hiding from an enemy they could not defeat. And now, suddenly, there was light. "The Dominion thinks this war is over. They're wrong. Today was just the beginning. We are setting course for the nearest human colony. We are bringing the fire of old Earth with us, and we will not stop until every human in this galaxy knows that they are not alone." Looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were fierce and bright, the eyes of someone who had seen the impossible and refused to accept it. We are the children of Earth. We carry its fire, and we do not go quietly." She ended the transmission. For a long moment the bridge was silent. Then, slowly, Sung began to clap. Others joined him. Soon the whole bridge was applauding, cheering, crying with joy and relief. They had done something that no one had believed possible. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was not finished. Bai looked up from her console, her eyes wide. "Captain, I'm picking up signals. Multiple contacts. There. They're human ships." Moved to look at the screen. She could see them now. Small dots of light coming from every direction. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Ships that had been hiding for years, waiting for a moment like this. They were emerging from the shadows, drawn by her message, coming to join them. "How many?" she asked. Bai's voice was full of wonder. "Too many to count, and more are appearing every minute." Chief Medic O Jin came to the bridge, her hands still stained with blood from treating the wounded. She looked at the screen and saw the approaching ships. "They heard you," she said. "They all heard you." Nodded, she thought of the journey ahead. It would be long and hard. The Dominion was still powerful. There would be more battles, more pain, more loss. But for the first time in generations, humanity had something it had lost. "Hope. Set a course for the nearest colony," she ordered. "Let them know we're coming." The horizon's end, battered and broken but still alive, began to move. Around it, more human ships gathered, forming a fleet that grew larger with every passing minute. They were not strong enough to defeat the Dominion yet, but they were together, and together they could begin to rebuild. Engineer Bora came to the bridge, her face tired but peaceful. The Cascade engine was silent now, its crystal dark and cold. It had given everything it had, but it had given them victory. "The engine is dead," she reported, "but I think it knew. It gave us what we needed when we needed it most." Put her hand on Bora's shoulder. "It wasn't just the engine, it was all of us, every person on this ship, every human who refused to give up. That's what saved us." The fleet moved through space, ancient and modern ships flying side by side. Behind them, the wreckage of the Armada drifted in silence. Ahead of them, the stars waited. The war was not over. The hardest battles were still to come. But humanity had remembered what it was, and the galaxy would never forget again. On the edge of the fleet, a small ship sent one final message before joining the others. It was simple, just 2 words repeated over and over. "We're coming." The fire of Earth was burning again.